All right, so we are currently live and recording. This is Matthew, aka Nifty Time, and I have the pleasure today to be speaking with Stefan Große Halbuer, digital artist who has a very exciting collection set to release this Thursday, March 30th at Nifty Gateway, titled Electric Bazaar. I'm very excited to speak with you, Stefan. Excited to dive into your creative journey to date, some of your commercial work, and of course, get into all the details for your upcoming Nifty Gateway release. But I'd like to throw the mic to you and have you introduce yourself to our audience, and we can take it from there.
Yeah, hi Matthew. Thanks for having me. Very happy to be on here, and yeah, very excited about the drop. Really nice that we can finally work together, so and then make something happen. So yeah, I'm Stefan. I'm a digital artist and also a designer from Münster in Germany. I am originally, so that's why I'm saying that I'm originally a graphic designer. So I studied design here in Münster at the Münster School of Design. By now, actually, nowadays I just only call me digital artist
Mm.
or sometimes illustrator. But, my background is kind of in both fields, so I always like to work both fields, and in the last years became only an artist now.
When did the creative bug bite you? When did you find that you had a passion and a love for creating art?
That was actually really early in my life. So I remember always being interested in drawing and painting as a kid. Every kid loves to draw. You know, it's kind of, I think it's really normal for kids to pick up crayons and just draw something. And so when I thought back about my years with my parents and like drawing any kind of stuff that kids draw, I thought like, okay, I was obviously nothing special because everyone as a kid likes to draw. But I had a look at some of my old drawings a couple of years ago and thought back to when I was, I guess, probably 5 or 6 years old, and I actually discovered what I would say a higher interest in the craft of drawing even back then. One of my earliest creative influences, and still actually creative influences, is our comics and cartoons, especially Disney or Claire comics from like the Franco-Belgian artists like Hergé, for
Mhm.
example, or also the Asterix comics I really loved as a kid, and I started very early to redraw these. So I took these and I filled like whole big paper sheets with drawings of Scrooge McDuck, and Asterix and Obelix. I don't know. Actually, I don't know if they're internationally known. So let me know if Asterix is something you know at all. But yeah, well, that were my first steps. And as my parents aren't artists at all, but they always saw that this was kind of an early passion, so they just let me do what I wanted. So I think that was when the bug bit me first, and I never really stopped doing it until now, I guess.
And when did the digital side enter your artistic practice?
Yeah, so we weren't a very digital family at all. So we didn't have a computer until I was a little bit older. And I gotta say, I'm 36 now. So in the 90s, it wasn't very common for a family to have a family computer. At least not in the early 90s, I would say, and especially not for us because we didn't have lots of money, and also, yeah, my parents weren't really interested in this technology. So yeah, I worked for quite a long time with traditional tools, and I remember getting my first some kind of cheap notebook thing and getting a very cheap Wacom, maybe with like maybe when I was 20, because I saw that people were doing crazy things with digital tools, and I back then I already started to play around with Photoshop a little bit, and you know you start drawing around with your mouse on the canvas in Photoshop, and you're like, okay, this is interesting. There's weird and funny brushes, and brushes with crazy effects and stuff like that that you couldn't do with traditional tools, and especially not that fast. And yeah, then I thought like, okay, I should probably get into this. and I got really small, really cheap. I think even used Wacom bamboo. Some like it's like kind of I think it's smaller than a postcard. The drawing surface, and it was but it was nice to make my first steps. And so I did my civil service after finishing school, and then I was looking for a job, and after a couple of months I started at a consultant firm, like a consultancy, as a media design apprentice. And yeah, I kept working with these tools and kept like I asked my boss if he would buy me a bigger tablet, and he got me the tablet. And after a couple of months, I was kind of the digital illustration expert of that firm.
Oh wow.
But if I look at my illustrations now, they're really really crappy and they're not good. But yeah, I mean that's the first steps, right?
Yeah. And just doing the thing is definitely like a huge part of it. And it's funny when you do look back on some of those first steps, whether it's in the creative side of things or otherwise, it's always you get a little bit of cringe reaction internally. Probably you're like, oh my goodness, which is cool because you see and you can note that progress, that development
Yeah.
over time.
Yeah, you need this cringe. I think everyone
Yeah.
needs this. I challenged myself to share some of that stuff on Instagram a while ago because I wasn't like I felt really bad about sharing it, but I thought like, hey, this could probably give people courage to see. Okay, he's doing these artworks now that I like, but 10, 15 years back he was producing absolute nonsense and absolute low quality stuff, and I think that that's a good way to show everyone, hey, it's a big and long progress and a process, and it just takes a while.
No journey happens overnight. No journey worth taking happens overnight. So it's always cool to go back over time and check that out. One thing that I was listening for as you were talking about your background was perhaps when or if the influence from Northeast Asia, maybe Japan, was going to come in. And I didn't hear it. Although looking at your body of work across foundations, super rare, I was fully expecting some deep dive or some like childhood memory or study abroad in Japan that perhaps had an influence on you. But I'm curious, is there any direct influence of Japanese culture at manga, anime, anything like that that's influenced you? Because it does seem to be quite a strong recurring theme in many of your works and series.
Yeah, that's a funny thing is that this question is coming up quite regularly because people ask me like, have you been in Japan for a while, and like where do these influences come? I think it's so. First of all, I haven't been to Japan so far, so I haven't been there in person. And I find it really fascinating to analyze myself how kind of secondhand media or secondhand impressions influence my work, because all I know from over there, from Asia or from Japan, is or everything I know, it comes from movies, photography, people even telling me the experiences from living there. And yeah, I find it really really fascinating because it's kind of a filtered influence I have there. And people always can't believe that I match the vibe and the when I have these street scenes, like the whole energy and the light and the whole vibe and the place, that I match this so good. I don't know why it works so well. It's crazy. I definitely want to go to Japan at some point, so that's definitely on my bucket list now. But my influences really come from reading manga as well, of course. That I didn't start super early as well. So I first got in touch with manga, for example, when I started studying in Münster, and lots of my fellow students were absolute weeps, and were reading manga, watching anime a lot. So I got into this through them a bit, but also not really as a kid or in my youth.
Mhm.
Quite late in comparison to many others, I guess.
I somewhat had a sense that you may have not directly traveled to Japan, which is not to take away anything from your art, but it was just something it felt like a very a detached, if you will, sort of perspective from afar, but you capture so much detail that I wasn't sure. I was like, maybe he has been there.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I posted this a thread on Twitter last week about I had this auction of this Japan Days series going on, and I was posting a thread about the background of my thoughts behind that artwork, and I mentioned that the view on these scenes and on the people I have in these scenes, there's always like small people, not children, but the size of the people in the artworks is always that we look at the people from a higher distance.
Yeah.
And I described it as a kind of voyeuristic look at these people. So we kind of look into their lives through a screen or from far behind or through a looking glass or whatever. And that's how I feel with making these artworks in general, so that I kind of get these impressions and I watch movies. And for example, I also like Japanese car culture. So I watch some YouTubers doing their drift videos in Japan with their cars, and but it's always like watching them from a distance, and it's interesting how this translates into the artworks.
Yeah, it translates to the artworks, and there's something about the, I don't want to overgeneralize, but the Japanese spirit that seems to translate very well with folks that are both in crypto and as well as art. Something about, I think, maybe their dedication to their craft that they've become known for, like as a general people, attention to detail, lifelong dedication there, even like on the food side of things. Like Jiro Dreams of Sushi, seeing someone spend decades and decades just focused on the smallest of details, trying to perfect everything about it. It's something that is very much in the current zeitgeist for folks that are in crypto generally, trying to make something out of nothing and spending all of one's time and energy focused on making everything as good as possible. I think there's something there that speaks to everyone, regardless
Yeah.
of if they've been there or not, which is a very cool thing to see. Speaking of the crypto side of things, how did you come across crypto and NFTs? Your genesis on Super Rare one dates back to May 2021. Did you encounter crypto prior to that, or how did that journey unfold?
Yeah, I'm actually aware of what's going on in the crypto scene since a bit longer before NFTs. So I think I bought my first Ethereum maybe in 2017 or so. I was back then. We were all really early, kind of. I think my first Ethereum was like a 2-digit price, like $80 or so. But one could think that I would be really rich now, but I am not, because I sold much of it. I wasn't obeying to the rule of holding things and then holding your crypto until forever. And then I sold it all when I got panicked by a little crash, or not all, but much of it. So I'm interested in this whole technology and in the whole scene for a couple of years now, and I got my first, I think my first touch points with the scene were just really friends. So I have a couple of friends who were interested in Bitcoin, of course. I mean, in the first place, and then also this kind of changed very quickly to altcoins, especially Ethereum, but also other coins. I spent time with these friends, and we just talked about this and talked about the potentials and what this could mean to the financial sector. We're not at all kind of attached to my friends don't have jobs in the financial sector. It's just like out of interest for technology and for technological developments, I guess. And yeah, I mean, this was kind of a natural thing to invest myself and see what the fuzz was all about, right? I remember when first articles and newspapers came up, like about Bitcoin and what's this new weird thing, and what's this kind of weird digital money, fantasy money revolution. It was nice that you already knew what was going on and had at least a little bit of a sense of how it all worked. Coming into NFTs, of course, this was a great great foundation for me because I already knew how to operate a wallet, and I already knew how to transfer crypto back and forth, and kind of this hurdle or this wall of understanding what this was about, kind of in the and on the back end. I already kind of climbed that wall while others joined the scene and were really confused and very very really confused about what this was all about. What the fuck is a MetaMask, and why do I need a ledger or whatever. That's my story. And funny thing is that I had an eye on NFTs since I think mid 2020, when I saw a couple of artists I followed, especially Meetup Jones, for example, and also Victor Mosquera. So I followed these guys and others, and saw them minting their work in 2020 already. And I was like, even though I had a grasp of this technology, and even though I found this really interesting, back then I somehow, it didn't really click to me that this could be an alternative future for art and the art world. And it needed a couple of artists kind of to convince me to finally mint my first piece I think in February 21, until it kind of clicked with me, and I was like, oh damn, yeah, sure, man, this is a great idea and this could work, and I should absolutely be part of this.
That's so funny. I love everyone's tipping point into minting. Well, that sort of all takes us to today. I know you were just talking about the piece that you released last week, I believe on Super Rare, Train Ride Tuesday. That looks like just sold at auction there on Super Rare on the 24th. But then this Thursday, we have a very cool drop that we mentioned in the intro, Electric Bazaar, set to release on Nifty Gateway. Do you want to kind of unpack the genesis of that collection, what folks can expect when it's released on Thursday?
Yeah, thanks, first of all. Yeah, that was a great sale I had last week. And the series, the Japan Day series, is really special to me. So I'm glad that even in sometimes difficult market situations, I was able to make a good sale. This of course confirms my work. And yeah, it's for me, sometimes, I mean, you're working on something, and sometimes it's really, I'm sitting here in my office and working away, and then suddenly two kind of essential or big drops happen in a very short period of time. So this week, Electric Bazaar comes to town, and I'm super happy that I can finally have a first own Nifty drop. So I had one piece as a part of a larger collection last year, and this is my first own Nifty drop. And I had this idea, or this concept behind this drop, is that I take vending machines and make a collection of these machines that are really crazy and animated in a funny way, looking like that I really want people to see them, and just I want them to be entertained, So it's 3 of these vending machines, 3 electric bazaars coming in, and then they all have kind of their own topic. It's isometric artworks. That's something I should mention, because isometric art, like this perspective, something I really like to do in my work. So I have this collection called Curious Cabins. This is a collection of isometric buildings. So it's kind of in this line of visual work. And I had this idea of making these vending machines for so long, and I was thinking that this isometric perspective would be really perfect for them because it supports like things looking cute, and it supports that you can add lots of funny little details. It gives people a kind of interesting bird's eye perspective on an object that makes everyone want to kind of find out, like, what is this cute, interesting, funny little moving thing, and I want to dive into it, and I want to people look at it and then think, hey, I want this kind of as a Lego kit or a 3D printed object on my desk because it looks so nice and sweet. Yeah, and these machines. So there's one open edition coming that's called Trip Machine. They all have some references to crypto, by the way. So that's something that I don't do always with my work, but I like to give a hint or two, or hide a little pepe somewhere or so. But actually, these artworks have like strong crypto references. And Trip Machine is the open edition that it will be focusing around kind of drugs and like it's a vending machine where you can buy, for example, copium, something we sometimes all need in the space. And then there will be the crypto kiosk. That one has obviously the strongest crypto references because it's kind of a machine that sells cryptocurrencies on floppy disks. So this is a good example for sometimes having these retro futuristic elements. So I really like to. I'm a big fan of cyberpunk. Some of my work is circling around the cyberpunk world or cyberpunk visuality a lot, and I like retro futuristic stuff. So I have these floppy disks with like Bitcoin and Ethereum on it, and there's lots of puns. There's, for example, there's FTT floppies lying on the ground, like thrown away, and there's some stickers and posters hanging on the wall. So I hope everyone will have fun like diving into this artwork and have a look at all the little references and puns in there. So that will be a limited edition, 15 editions, ranked auction, and then there we will have a third piece that will be called loot box, right? Loot box, and that will have some video game references. So it's kind of one of these claw machines. I think you call these claw machines, where you kind of control this grabbing arm and you pick an item usually with like toys. And my version is a claw machine with crypto items like or NFT items like PFPs, but also some video game references because I want this artwork to have this gamification aspect, and I wanted to kind of circle around the topic of gaming and gambling as well. We all know that crypto and NFTs are about gambling a lot at times. So and this one will be like it's fitting to the topic. This one will be a raffle. So between all collectors of the open edition and the limited edition, we will raffle this one as I think 5 editions is what we have now.
Such perfect commentary, right, on the state of the NFT space in general. Obviously, there's exceptions to it, but the gamification, the gambling, the luck aspect, I think it's kind of all very perfect. And the crypto theme that runs throughout the works, it's self-referential. I think a lot of people will see themselves in it, but it's also a nice dose of critique through this creation, this art collection, which is very cool. You always love to see that. I guess when this podcast is published, probably by tomorrow, we should have a preview up available so folks can check out exactly what Stefan was just talking about there. Really excited for Thursday. Again, the drop goes live at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time on niftygateway.com. You'll see the collection front and center if you go to the homepage right there. Before we wrap, I'm just curious, Stefan, so heading forward, where do you see this whole space going? Where do you see the role of the artist when it comes to this intersection of art and crypto and the digital?
First of all, I would always say that this whole thing is here to stay. I mean, I've heard it really often now, and I'm sure you heard it very often as well. And I'm not someone to spread like toxic positivity, like you mentioned before, like seeing the space with a sense of humor, but also with a sense of like realism, that not everything is always whack me. Is how is my personal approach to it. And I think my character is kind of like I like seeing things with a sense of humor because it's more easy to deal with things this way. But I think there will be a really, really interesting and fascinating future coming up with all the developments that are directly related to crypto, but and NFTs, but also like in the sphere that surrounds us with AI art and AI text programs. I think the next years will bring crazy new stuff, and it will change the whole art world very much, I guess, in the next years. And what I think is that we in the space we have now are kind of, if this is a whole train that goes in a direction, we're kind of sitting on the driver's seat, or at least like sitting next to the driver as a co-pilot. I don't know. We shape and we can define what's coming, and I have the feeling that all the people I have to do with in the space, like artists, collectors, people that are kind of on the back end with coders and developers, we have a great tool at our hands, and it will be challenging every day to make the best decisions, of course, and there will be bear markets like we have now. But yeah, I'm basically really positive, and I even think that the current bear market is something nice, as long as the good people stay. As long as the great builders and the visionary people won't be frustrated and leaving. I think it's something great, because 2021 was nice. The whole hype and the total craze about PFP projects. I had some really, really crazy offers on my plate, like coming in sometimes even almost every day. Like people sending me like contracts for making a PFP collection for yeah, interesting money, of course. But I'm kind of glad that this craze is a little bit over, so that we can now build in a more calm and more focused environment, I guess.
No, I love that. And I guess the metaphor of being like a co-conductor or conductor of a train as it's heading forward, as the track is being laid directly in front of you, which
Yeah,
is
maybe we're
magic.
not sitting in the driver's seat, but we're building the track.
We're kind of doing both. Anyone that's not in the space, like that's kind of a perfect metaphor. A lot of people either use the building a plane in flight, but I also the train metaphor works as well, laying the track as the steaming train is barreling ahead. But you touched on the commercial work, and that's something I almost missed. You've worked with clients like Adidas or Adidas, Kia, Lufthansa, amongst others. Curious, and I know that there's some artists that have used crypto art, NFTs, digital art to kind of go full time into their own personal art, kind of leaving the commercial world behind. It sounds like you're doing both still. Kind of curious to hear your perspective on balancing commercial and one's personal artistic craft.
Yeah, that's an interesting topic. Balancing is really a key and a challenge to me. I try to balance it. Yeah, actually, I don't know. I don't have really a goal, but my goal is to not focus on one thing and leave the other thing completely behind. So that's actually, and that in the last 2 years, I did like an analysis of my revenue through my business. And funny thing is that both years were really unbelievably close to 50-50. So I couldn't believe it when I saw it, but somehow managed to do 50% personal projects and 50% commercial or client projects in terms of revenue, that is, of course. And I like that very much, because I like it when people say I'm committing myself completely to the NFT space. That's great, but everyone's different. And for me personally, I prefer to keep my bonds with my clients, and not because I expect the NFT space to break down, but just because I think having different kind of income streams and different kinds of relationships into for example into the NFT space, but also into the business world, is more fun and more exciting for me. It's actually as simple as that, because it prevents me from getting bored from my own work. But I also got to say that I know lots of artists who do commercial work only for the money, and that's not the case for me. So when I draw a campaign for Adidas, like I did in January again, I didn't share the latest campaign. I'm able to share it now, but I didn't yet because I didn't have the time to prepare it. It's also because of me having fun with like figuring out a concept for their campaign, and sitting down and thinking like, okay, they're going to release a new shoe. And I made the campaign for the new Ultra Boost running shoe, and so I got this shoe, and then I'm thinking like, okay, how can I build a concept, an illustrative concept around this campaign? And then it's big fun for me, but it's also about curating your clients. Of course, I dump a lot of clients when I feel they're not doing me good, and I told lots of clients that I don't want to keep up working with them when I had the feeling that they were controlling my work too much, or when they overstepped their boundaries in terms of my artistic freedom and stuff like that. So it's kind of also a curation of clients. But so far it works great. And yeah, I had a nice magazine job lately for a magazine cover, for example, where I made an artwork where I thought like, hey, this could also be something I could mint on Super Rare or on Foundation or wherever. But it was not a commission, and they paid for it. And the next piece I do is probably something a collector will pick up. Who knows? So yeah, that's the kind of balance I'm trying to figure out day by day, kind of.
I love the nuance. And I love that perspective that, again, at the end of the day, everyone is different. They need to do what works for them. But the nuance of how you approach your commercial work, I think that it really resonates with, as a non-artist, even just thinking about curating one's clients as artists can do with their collectors now, as collectors do with artists. It's all it feels very close and very relatable and
I gotta
understandable.
say, it's of course a little bit of special or even maybe privileged situation because not everyone can curate their clients. There's a lot of artists who have to take what comes in, right? Want to add that because I don't want it to sound like too easy or as if like everyone is always swamped with new work. It's of course there's times where you think like, hey, I don't have a gig right now, and I need to take what comes next to pay my rent. Of course. Apart from that, if you have the choice, and I mean, I'm doing this for lots of years now, and there have been other times, and since a couple of years, I'm able to do this curation now, and I'm very very happy that it is this way.
Very, very important caveat there. But also, I mean, like you said before too, it's very much a work in progress, right? So this is something that you've been very thoughtful about, it sounds like, for years and years, and evaluating what works, what doesn't. That sort of an introspection, reflection is really important. And knowing that not everything will always last or be the same as it has been, and it requires that kind of constant reflection to make sure it's working still, or if changes need to be made. So again, appreciate that nuance immensely.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a
Um,
little bit of flexibility in your mind is or of mind is important. We see that with artists hating or spending a lot of energy on hating AI right now. For example, I see that on Instagram, also Twitter, that people invest lots of their time and energy into fighting AI software and AI artists. And I don't want to open up this whole topic of AI art. That's really something else. But just as an example, it has been the same with NFTs. I think as an artist, it's really difficult to be narrow-minded because the world is changing and the technology is changing. And if I look at the tools I've been using 10, 15, 20 years ago, it's crazy how much it has changed. And even in the background, like how much, I don't know, Photoshop or Procreate or whatever software you use for drawing, like how they influence your workflow already without you probably actively noticing it as an artist. And I find it difficult. So of course, I obviously I don't want to tell anyone how they should feel, but I think it's difficult to be narrow-minded on technological developments. I think that makes you work in your life harder and doesn't bring you success in the future, I think.
it's interesting to see people's reactions, not just artists, but folks generally, when something new comes on the scene. Folks will either ignore it, they'll negatively react and try to say this is wrong or not right, or folks will deep dive into it and tinker around and kick the tires and see what's there, experiment. Personally speaking, that the experimentation approach always seems to yield better results, or at least a more like nuanced take and understanding of what it is that is new, versus folks that try to ignore it, act like it hasn't been created, or like you're talking about initially, spending their time reacting and saying this is wrong, don't do this, how dare they, whatever, whatever.
Yeah,
Just
absolutely. I mean, not
totally.
everyone is has the time and should completely dive into everything that's new. Obviously, that's not possible. But if it kind of touches your own work and if it intersects with your with the industry you're working in, I think it would be a good idea to at least like stay up to date and see what the whole thing is about. And I guess that makes you more resistant against actual changes coming probably to your everyday work. At some point probably your boss comes in and tells you, hey, there's this new thing, we have to use it as well now. And then I think it's better if you can like answer, yeah, sure, I know what's it about, I know how it works, and let's talk about it, instead of I don't want to hear it, I don't want to see it, go away.
Well, Stefan, this conversation has been fascinating. Again, like super stoked for Thursday. Can't wait to release the collection for the world to see. Very, very excited for that. Let everyone know where they can follow you, track you. Again, not just for Thursday, but even beyond that as well.
Yeah, I think we covered everything quite well. Was a nice talk. So really appreciate having this little chat, and any updates and information about the drop on Thursday will be on my Twitter. So Twitter Große Halbuer. So everyone will be able to type that in now. I guess you'll have links to my profiles
Exactly. Yeah.
wherever this will be available. So yeah, updates will be posted there, and on my Discord, of course. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm extremely excited. I have to finish the last artwork still, as we didn't really talk about my work routine, but I would say I'll almost always get my deadlines, but it's always tight. So I have to sit down and finish the last artwork, so we can also put it on Nifty on Thursday. I'm also going to share some process insights. So if anyone's interested in that, looking into the way I work and how these electric bazaars come to life, feel free to check out my Twitter and Instagram.
Very much in keeping with the metaphor that we were talking about earlier. We're laying the track as we speak, leading up to the day of the drop when the train needs to leave the station. It's kind of perfect.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good fit.
Awesome, Stefan. Well, again, it was a pleasure. Everyone that listens to this, thank you very much. And make sure you check out the show notes for all the links leading up to the drop on Thursday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern on niftygateway.com. Cheers.